Hey, Truth Seekers, welcome back. Zach here. I also want to share this story courtesy of MSNBC on Lawrence O'Donnell. He had on a guest news reporter named Janelle Richards. This reminds me of September 11th, how many media insiders they interviewed at first for the original details of what went on. Same formula, 14 years later. Let's look at Janelle Richards, though, real quick, Truth Seeker. I just did a video on Hillary Clinton, the Time magazine that said she's the perfect age to run. Perfect equals 73. Hillary Clinton equals 73. She's 67 years old. This Janelle Richards has a name gematria of 67. Her name also has a 44 last name having to do with kill. This accident killed 5 people, unfortunately, if it's true. I suspect it's not, but I'm not certain. I want to point out, True Seeker, the word female sums to 67 in Jewish gematria. Let's just watch the interview, though.
So on that train when it derailed. Janelle, where are you now?
I am standing.
Did you catch that, True Seeker? She was on the train. So she's going to give her account of what happened. I just did a video on the mayor and how he said the whole thing was disaster, awful. Apparently, this lady was on the train and survived. So let's hear about it.
Right near where the ambulances and the police cars are. So firefighters, police officers are tending to people and helping them get into the ambulance.
And where were you on the train when this happened?
I was in the back of the train. So in that last car, and that, we were just, next thing you know, there's a loud crash. You kind of fly up a little bit and you're jerking back and forth, and then it's all over. And I was in complete shock. I think most people that.
I mean, did that sound. She said it as if there was no stress to the situation. Oh, boy.
That were, and then once I realized what had happened and smoke started to fill the train car, my first thought and everybody's first thought, I'm guessing, was, how do we get off of this car? And that was the first thing that I heard people asking out loud. How do we get off? How do we get off of the car? So the people that were able to get up stood up and walked to try to find an exit.
Janelle, would you say the car you were on, that last car on the train, was that half full? Was that mostly full?
I would say that it was mostly full from what I can remember. On these trains, people are constantly getting off and on at each stop. So when I first got on the train in Washington, D.C., it was full. By the time we got to Philly, it's definitely possible, of course, that people could have gotten off by the time that we actually crashed or derailed.
Yeah, Philadelphia is normally the stop where more people get off than any other between Washington and New York. But was it your sense, Janelle, that this was a front-end impact on the train? I know it's very hard to tell that.
It's very hard to tell.
I mean, just think about these questions, though. To whose benefit are they? Was it a front end impact? And I mean, look at the account she already gave of it. It was like a little bump and then a twist here and there. I mean, come on. The media is just trying to paint pictures in our head of nonsense that never happened. From shootings to this.
All that, but yeah, I would actually think so. When I looked over to my left, there was a woman in the aisle with blood coming down her face, but I also remember a lot of people or some people standing up. So it seemed like even though people were shocked, they were not badly injured.
Yeah, so if it was a front-end impact, the last car was the best place to be in this situation. But even as the best place to be, you saw injuries in that car. Would you say it was a minority of the people in the car who were injured?
Yeah, I would say the minority of people, yes.
And what did you have to do to get out? Did your car flip over the way Patrick Murphy's did?
No, my car did not flip over. It was standing up. I walked to the back of
I just want to point out that Patrick is a 33 name, which he just mentioned.
it, where I remember that there was an exit and there were a couple of people in front of me. And so a gentleman had figured out how to open that door. And it didn't open all the way, but he got it open enough so that we could climb through it. And he stood there and helped us through that little opening. And then we were just standing by the trees and in what kind of looked like the forest. There was a hill with gravel and rocks. And the other thing that people kept screaming once we were off the train was, "Watch out for the wires, watch out for the wires. Is the train car going to tip over? Are these huge electrical poles going to collapse in?" So everybody was moving as far away from that train as they could, as more and more people were filing out.
And as you were leaving the train, pretty much all of the luggage on an Amtrak train is carry-on luggage. Were people in your car, the last car, taking the time to grab all of their stuff with them, or were people rushing off, leaving some of their things on the train?
I'd say it was a mixture of both. The people that I was near their bags, like my purse was right in between my feet, so I was able to pick up my bag and then walk off. And I saw another guy with a huge duffel bag that he must have had maybe very closely to him, and he just kind of put it diagonally across his body and walked off. But my guess would be that people definitely wanted to get off of that train and leave their stuff there, but some were able to grab it.
And Janelle, once you were off the train and then onto the track, how much of a train track was there? Was it just a single train track? Were there two train tracks there, or multiple train tracks at that spot?
I don't remember. It definitely looked like there was more than one train track, but I'm not sure. I remember it must have been someone that works for Amtrak saying, "Don't stay near the tracks, don't stay near the tracks in case another train could be coming." So it seemed like that was a thought that was like extremely scary. So again, people and myself just got, as far back as we could.
And where did you go from there? Is this a section? A lot of the Amtrak route is fenced in all the way, especially in those urban and suburban environments.
Right. I just stood back in the gravel and in the forest and just waited. I started to see up in the sky, like obviously like helicopters, and I started to hear sirens. So I knew that responders were on their way. So I just stood there and waited. Once they got there, you could see the flashlights in the distance, what seemed like dozens of them just flashing.
Is it just me, Truth Seeker, or does everyone down here they're showing seem kind of lackadaisical? I don't see like anyone in much of a. I don't know. I just feel like people would be more active, more not looking like this, lethargic.
Towards the train and towards the woods. So as we waited, as you mentioned, we couldn't see it, but there was a fence, and so they started to drill or kind of break that fence down so that we could walk back here to the street.
NTSB is reporting that they are currently gathering information about tonight's Amtrak derailment. NTSB investigates these kinds of derailments just as they investigate airplane crashes. We've been getting the inside experience of being on one of the cars in that train from Janelle Richards. She is a producer at NBC Nightly News. She was on the train leaving Washington, D.C. tonight on its way to New York. Janelle, what time did the train leave Washington?
The train was supposed to leave Washington at 7:10. We were delayed, but we ended up leaving shortly after that because I remember looking at my phone thinking, "Oh, we're not as delayed as I thought we would be." So if I had to guess, I'd say we maybe left around 7:20, 7:25, maybe even before that. But we were supposed to arrive in New York at 10:30 or so, 10:34, I think, and it's now already so quickly blurring together, but this derailment, as you know, probably happened in the 9 o'clock hour, around 9:15, maybe before, maybe after.
There may be some family and friends gathered in Penn Station in New York City right now who did not have access to news about this, waiting for passengers to arrive any minute now at Penn Station. That train, obviously, Amtrak will have to be informing those people at Penn Station. I'm sure there's been some method used for that by now. Janelle Richards, we have images up on the screen of some of what's going on down there, and there's one shot here of a derailed car that's lying on its side. Were you able to see when you were standing outside the train how quickly medical technicians were able to respond to the scene and help the most injured people?
I know in these situations, just from what I've reported in the past, it always feels longer than it actually is. So I'm really not sure. It felt like it took a while, but they ended up getting here, I'm sure, very quickly, maybe 10 minutes, maybe less or more.
And what about the passengers who are okay, who have not been injured? Are they all gathered somewhere there in the street waiting for transportation to somewhere?
Yeah, everybody's gathered on the sidewalk watching people get into these ambulances now.
But has anyone communicated with the passengers who are uninjured about here's how we're going to transport you from here to somewhere else, whether that be New York or back to Philadelphia, to hotels? What's going to happen to all
Not
those
that I
Amtrak
haven't heard
passengers?
anything. Yeah, no, I haven't heard anything about that yet. But that is the first question I'm going to ask when I'm off with you, for sure.
So there could be, if there's 200 and plus passengers on that train, there may well be 100 people standing there. Can you estimate how many people you see standing there where the passengers are standing who seem okay?
100 seems about right. The problem now is that people in the neighborhood are also standing out here, so it's very tough to tell who was on the train. I mean, some people have, like soot on their faces and blood on their clothes, and that's easy to tell, but otherwise it's a little tough at this point to decipher between who was a passenger and who was just a part of the neighborhood.
All right, Truth Seeker. So people are probably asking, well, what's the motive? It could be a lot of things. It could be more spending for the train. David K. Johnston, a reporter for the New York Times, is constantly writing about how the trains are the least well-maintained of all of our infrastructure in the nation, need significant upgrades. So, you get a story like this. By the time election season comes around, maybe we're talking about investing heavily in train infrastructure. I hope that nobody was really hurt. I hope this was a giant scheme, another stunt. It's hard to say. But between this video with this coded woman's name, their spokesperson coming from the media itself, a producer, a behind the scenes person, somebody who works for NBC would surely be in on the propaganda that these networks routinely wage. Between that and then the mayor in the other video who I covered with all of his 93 Thelema coding and how Amtrak connects the locations, something's definitely amiss. Let's not forget her name, Janelle Richards, sums to 67, the number for female. Something else, Truth Seeker. A lot of this 67 coding in women lately. All right, until next time.